Women and girls represent half of the world's population and therefore also half of its potential. Gender equality, besides being a fundamental human right, is essential to achieve peaceful societies with full human potential and sustainable development. Welcome to Hude Hour, the flagship program of the Hude Network, where we analyze and discuss contemporary issues within the humanitarian and development space. I am Amadine Ogbewe.
And I am Joan Eze. Welcome. Ending all discrimination against women and girls is not only a basic human right, it's crucial for a sustainable future. It's proven that empowering women and girls helps economic growth and development.
Today on Huge Hour, we will be bringing you stories around the world about the push to ensure gender parity and equal rights for women. Let's take a sneak peek at our headlines. Legal equality for women could take 300 years, UN chief says. Taliban's morality law erases women's public presence in Afghanistan. And we have Ghana passes law to boost women's participation in governance. Now we'll go on a quick break. When we return, we'll delve further into the matter at hand, which is gender equality. Stay with us. Gender equality is a fundamental human right and has major social and economic benefits. Empowering women boosts economies, increases productivity, and drives growth. However, gender inequalities are still widespread. Women often face barriers to good jobs, unequal pay, limited access to education and healthcare, and high rates of violence and discrimination. They also or are underrepresented in political and economic decision making. The United Nations has made notable strides in promoting gender equality over the years, with key agreements like the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action and the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, the CEDAW. There are 9 objectives within the Sustainable Development Goal 5 related to gender equality, including end discrimination, end violence, end harmful practices, recognize and value unpaid work, ensure full participation in public life, ensure access to sexual and reproductive health and rights, ensure equal economic resources, and promote women's empowerment through technology, sound policies, and legislation. Now, the UN Women says despite progress on some issues, recent backslide in other areas, such as on reproductive rights and women's economic empowerment, has put gender equality further out of reach as the world is not on track to achieve gender equality by 2030.
Moving further, the International Labour Organization reports that global labor force participation for women is just under 47% compared to 72% for men, creating a 25 percentage point gap. In some regions, this gap exceeds 50 percentage points. Women seeking employment face more challenges than men, especially in Northern Africa and the Arab states, where female unemployment rates exceed 20%. Both women and men experience vulnerable employment, but women are often overrepresented in precarious roles. Men are more likely to have own account jobs, while women frequently work in household or family businesses. Persistent issues include traditional gender roles, lack of transportation, and affordable childcare. To address these challenges, we need to combat occupational segregation, eliminate discrimination, promote work life balance, create quality childcare jobs, ensure equal pay, and of course, protect against economic downturns.
And on that note, we'll go on a break. When we return, we'll take a look at some examples from across the globe on the state of gender equality and the progress made so far. Stay with us. So our first news item. On International Women's Day, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres cautioned that achieving legal equality for women might take up to 300 years, given the escalating struggle against pervasive discrimination and severe human rights abuses. Guterres highlighted a global backlash against women's rights that is threatening and, in some cases, reversing progress in both developing and developed nations. Guterres also pointed to a persistent epidemic of gender based violence, a gender pay gap of at least 20%, and the significant underrepresentation of women in politics. At the recent UN General Assembly, only 12% of the speakers were women, illustrating the ongoing disparity. In the past year, Guterres said there have been testimonies of rape and trafficking in Sudan, and in Gaza, women and children account for a majority of the more than 30,000 Palestinians reported killed in the Israeli Hamas conflict, according to the Gaza Ministry of Health. Sima Bahous, the head of UN Women, noted that 1 in 10 women lives in extreme poverty and that men hold uh, trillions more wealth than women. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called for nations to prioritize women's and girls' equality and announced a new gender equality acceleration plan to help governments create and implement policies that address their needs. There you have it, John. 300 years is what the UN chief is saying is required to put us on a state of gender equality. And 300 years, a lot of things happen in a century. That's 3 centuries
Yeah.
before we can. I don't even think, in Nigeria, we're a bit, what's the word now? Particular about words being spoken. But I don't think we would be alive then. If we are making the right progress, it's going to take about 300 years. And given the issues on hand, so we've taken a step back and all that. What does that? How do you digest that information? That for a species that has equal gender, so to speak, with half of its population, is going to need 3 centuries to be on par with the other gender. What does that mean to you? Really?
Well, I think it's a very, very poor situation at hand. And for the UN Secretary General, Guterres, to spotlight it, judging from countries and how they've been treating their women, he has actually drawn the conclusion and said that it's going to be 300 years. And for me, it's a very, very poor one because it will take a longer time for these two parties that are human beings to become equal. Imagine in the United Nations meeting, just 12% of women were represented. They were speakers. It's not supposed to be. And from what our news item is saying, the unemployment rate is at the high side for the women, and even though they are employed, the rate of payment is not the same.
Yeah, the gender pay gap.
The men earn higher, even though they are being given the same task to do. So it's really, really appalling, and it doesn't make sense.
Indeed, and just to add that you mentioned the UN, at the meeting with only 12% of women. So it's something where everyone should begin to look within. I think because how did that happen? How was it that only 12% of women were able to speak?
And we're not even forgetting the cases of rape that is happening in Sudan currently. Women are actually affected with a lot of things. There is rape, there is restriction in movement. There are places that you're not supposed to be found as a woman. It's not supposed to be so.
Indeed.
300 years is too much for us to to become equal. All right, next up on our next news item, Taliban's new morality law erases women's public presence in Afghanistan. In a significant development, the Taliban government in Afghanistan has enacted a new morality law that further restricts women's ability to participate in public life. The legislation, which has been widely criticized by international human rights organizations, cements policies that effectively erase women's presence from the public sphere. Under the new law, women face severe limitations on their freedom of movement, employment, and participation in public spaces. This move marks a continuation of the Taliban's stringent measures aimed at reducing women's visibility and roles in society, reversing years of progress in gender equality. Advocates for women's rights argue that these policies are a grave violation of human rights, curtailing women's fundamental freedoms and undermining their ability to contribute to society. The international community has expressed concern with calls for urgent intervention and support for Afghan women facing these harsh new restrictions. Amadin, just like what we just said, they are being restricted from public spaces. Employment rates it's been biased on their end, and now the Taliban government in the Afghanistan, they've banned women with the new restriction. As a man, what do you think about that?
As a man,
Of course.
I don't think my opinion should matter. I mean, that's the
It
point.
should.
But
It should.
yeah, but it's the women's the voices that we should be hearing now. But as a man, though, I would say that there's this thought experiment that people have done where sometimes a woman can say something and she won't be heard for some reason, and then a man can take the exact same words, changing nothing, just bring it back, copy exactly what you said,
Because he's a
and
man.
say it again, and then people say, "Wow, that's brilliant, that's wise," because there's a bias against women. And so when you take a look at what's happening in Afghanistan with the Taliban, it's a question of being like, who are in the Nigerian parlance, who are you doing really? Because do you think that it's when you do this somehow it is women who are suffering? I mean, they are suffering, but
It's
there's
telling on
more
everyone.
that you could
Yeah.
be achieving. If you would simply do the basic common sense thing, which is allow every human being to have an equal rights and equal stake in life. So I think that's what they need to consider now as to what they could be losing. If you don't want to take it from the moral aspects, from the part of being a basic human being with emotions and empathy, and to allow your fellow human being to have the same rights as you, can you take a look at the other aspects, perhaps economically and others? What are you depriving yourself of? And these women when you do this. So I think that's something that should be considered.
Indeed, it really needs to be considered, because even the people that are the advocates for these women, they've considered it as a violation against human rights.
Yeah.
So it's not really a good
It's good
one.
that you brought that up again. I think that's where we should always take this back to. It's an issue of human rights first before anything else.
Before anything else.
Even if maybe you can't see any economic benefits from it, it really doesn't matter. It's about humanity, and you should do that first. So let's go on a quick break now, and then when we return, we'll take our final story. Afterwards, we'll move into the conversation proper. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. And now delving into our final news item for the day. Ghana passes landmark law to boost women's participation in governance. In July 2024, Ghana's lawmakers passed a major law to boost women's roles in national governance. The Affirmative Action Bill 2024 aims for women to hold at least 30% of decision-making positions by 2030. Announced by the Speaker, the law seeks to correct imbalances in various sectors and will take effect after President Nana Akufo-Addo signs it. Bagbin, the Speaker, highlighted the need for action based on the 1992 Constitution's call for gender equality, with women currently making up less than 15% of Ghana's parliament, and the country ranked 119th globally in gender political empowerment. This legislation seeks to improve gender balance and meet the UN's 30% target. The country was ranked 119th in a June report on global gender gap in political empowerment. This new legislation aims to bridge this gap and promote greater gender balance in governance. Interestingly, that law there is just seeking for 30% involvement of women in politics and governance and so on and so forth. So I think one thing we always have to know, probably this is why our earlier news items mentioned 300 years being needed. If as at now in 2024, where we feel there's nothing new under the sun and we're most progressive as we've been, 30% is still the target. It shows, and at the moment, from what we read there, Ghana is at 15%. Out of 100, that's 85% is on the flip side. So these are the things that we need to question. How does governance work when half the population is not involved? We need to start to understand, like, what are the impacts on this when laws are being made that include women or that pertain to women, and there's just 15% of women in the room. What does that mean for the final product that we get to see? Does it reflect the reality? These are the questions we need to understand and we need to ask as to why this law is being passed. But at least something is being done, and I think it's a step forward. I will see how the implementation works, because in Africa or wherever really, laws are passed, policies are made, plans are proposed.
Yeah.
The issue is the implementation of it.
Of course, yeah, I agree totally with you, because a lot of people will say a lot of things. Government will come and say, okay, this is what we'll do. At the end of the day, we don't get to see it. But for Ghana to put up with this, well, it's a good one, and we look forward to them implementing it and seeing that women are being involved in not just any other thing, but politically, economically, socially, in different aspects, and not just appointing them as or appointing a woman to be the Minister of Women Affairs only. A woman can also be the Minister of Finance. She can be the Minister of I don't know, but different parastatals, sectors, apart from being the Minister of Women Affairs.
Yeah, I think there's a word for that, I believe. Something about weaponized diversity, or sorry, about where people feel that these people who are marginalized should have their own spaces where they can, tackle with other marginalized people. But that's not the reality of things. And hopefully we get to see more of these interesting news as we go forward. So we'll go on a break now, and finally we'll be joined by our guest speaking about a representative from the GSAI. She's the comms lead, and that's Grace Hude. She'll be joining us on the program to discuss the issue of gender equality. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Every day, amazing stories of hope and tenacity unfold across the globe. On Hude Hour, we dive into these inspiring tales and discuss the vital work being done in the humanitarian and development space. Humanity has never faced a shortage of challenges, yet we rise stronger through teamwork and determination. Though these remedies are often underreported, on Hude Hour, we advocate sustainable solutions. We bring you the latest and most impactful news on how lives are being changed. We engage with young change makers and experts who provide valuable insights into relief efforts and the challenges faced by local communities through a global perspective. Join us every Wednesday by 8 a.m. on Hude Network's YouTube channel as we embark on this journey of positive change. Welcome back. And now we've been joined on the program by guests to do justice to the issue at hand, speaking about the communications lead at the Gender Strategy Advancement International. She's also a women's rights advocate, Grace Udier. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
You're
Good to have
welcome.
you.
It's good to
Thank
have
you
you.
so much.
All right. I believe you've been following already with the conversation on ground. So let's start with a broad question to set the stage. What would you say is the current state of things as regards ensuring gender equality? Because when we speak about gender equality, some persons might be confused when the moment we start with gender equality, we go into women needing to be. So they wonder what is the issue? How come it is women who need to become equal? Where were they before? So, what's the current state of things as regards achieving gender equality?
Okay. Thank you so much for having me. Like I said to Amadine yesterday, I said this was an ambush because we have like two, you know. But moving straight to conversation, when we talk about gender equality, we're not saying that women and men are, supposed to just be a woman wants to be a man or a man wants to be a woman. That is not the case. The case is for equal opportunities to present themselves, and women and men can also benefit from these opportunities. Opportunities like jobs, opportunities like access to education, access to health. But we see over the years, not just in Nigeria, globally, we've had like a low opportunity for women, not just women, marginalized communities like the persons with disabilities, special needs kids. These are people who have been deprived for far too long, and we see that opportunities unveil themselves for the men more than the women and the marginalized community. I'll give an instance with an opportunity that avails itself for normal people. They refer to themselves as normal people. They can actually go to school. They can sit in the classroom and have part of education. Whereas the girls are supposed to go out, get married. There's an issue of early marriage. The girls are supposed to like go out, get married, have children, take care of the families. There's no need for education because the man can handle a family and promote the welfare of the entire family. Whereas that's not the case. We really have a big gap, right, in gender equality. And most people say that it's inappropriate to use the word gender equality because you're saying you want to be a man. That's not the case. I am a woman. I'm very comfortable being a woman. But if I have like an interview or I have an opportunity to attend a conference, when I come to that conference, I want it to be that, oh, you have your national ID card, okay, come in. You have your passport, come in. Not, oh, you can come in, you're a man, you're a woman. That's not the door for the woman. You should come this other way. Those are the gaps we are trying to bridge in not just in Nigeria but globally. Let the opportunity be simultaneous. Let us be able to come to a conference and everyone is allowed to come in on the basis that there are guidelines, there are provisions, there are frameworks that can allow you access to that space where you are intending to go into. So that's my opinion about gender equality.
All right, John, just before you come in, we want to take a look at some of the SDGs and performances so far. I'll mention a striking one here on the number one SDG goal of poverty eradication. From the UN Women's Report, we have that at the current rates, it will take an additional 137 years to end extreme poverty among women. That's a century and 37 years. It also says that social protection is key for poverty eradication, yet 50.01% of women are covered by at least one social protection benefit compared to 54.6% for men. So let's speak now as pertains to the economic aspect of this. Is there, for those who might not know, is there an aspect of this where women are economically impoverished, particularly because they are women? And it says 137 years here before this can be remedied completely. What's your take on the progress so far and some of the things that need to be done to start, reducing that number drastically?
Okay, so I'm going to speak to the gender gap index, which has, it's having like key dimensions, taking key dimensions on economic participation. Um, this economic participation is equal access to, job opportunities, right? Over the years, you would see that it is glaring that there's always room for the men to, work and balance their work life and then, take more responsibilities at home. And this is what pushes forth the narrative of, poverty in for women, right? If you look critically at this whole societal and cultural norms, um, it has pointed out an underrepresented women in the workplace, having it making it difficult for them, for women, to have, to balance their work life, because there's a narrative in society that subjects women to taking care of family, raising the kids. If you even come out to be part of anything serious or meaningful with your life, you get stereotyped, and they refer to you as maybe a prostitute, especially those who are wanting to go into the political space. Now, this is promoting a long-term poverty for women, because you can't work for your own money anymore. You have to depend on your spouse or the family, to you get conversations when men will say that, sorry, I'm really sorry, but it's the obvious truth. Some men, let me not say men, some men would say that, who takes care of the family when it is your responsibility as a woman to be in charge of the family? I want you here to take care of my children. I want my children to grow in good light. I want them to have good training. It takes two to actually take care of a child. So if you are a man and you are present in the growth of your children, it will give ample time for your wife as well to also develop herself and not solely depend on you for, I think there's a development in Iceland that has given room for parental leave and childcare, and allows women to, actively participate in the workplace. I think these are some of the things that we can draw for our strength from, and also push for policies and actions that, allow leave for parents, for women especially, so they can, venture into opportunities that also promote economic development as women, and not just because, they're stereotyped as household materials. They are already turning into furnitures in the house because they have to be at home and not be productive to themselves. And now, from the UN article, it's going to actually take a very long time. Why? Because it is difficult for these policies to be implemented. The policies are there, they are numerous, but are they being implemented? Are they seeing the need for, women to come out of that stereotype that has to push them into taking care of homes, taking care of subjected to, the family? That's why the length of time is actually that long. But I'm hoping that we change the narrative very soon, because a lot is being done in that regard. So,
Okay, so we've been talking about the stereotyping of gender inequality, how everything has actually been happening. What is actually the genesis of all these things? Like, where is this whole thing coming from? Is it religious wise, cultural? What do you think is the genesis of this?
okay, so where I work, JSI, we did a research on women's political participation. Forgive me for always calling the participation of women in politics, because I think that is the standpoint for all of this. I think if more women are included in the political space, it's going to give room for policies to be captured, like to be made for them and included for persons with disabilities and all of that. So I take this back to the pre-colonial age, where we had like patriarchy and, the mindset. It is all of what you've called out. You have the cultural, you have the religious, you have the societal norms. All of these are preventing, women from exploring, are preventing women from participating, and are excluding women. There were some times when women were looked at as the weaker vessels at the pre-colonial age and time. And I feel that all of these narratives have put in the minds of the women, not these ones now, not the present women now, because these ones will tell you that they are woke and they will not subject themselves to what their mothers, went through when they were their age. So it goes way back to the patriarchal nature of countries, not just Nigeria, of so many countries where the men dominate in so many sectors, like the political sector, the economic sector, so many sectors. So for women to take a part or be included in all of this, we need to do so much. So much is already being done, but we still need to go in full force for women to, be recognized for the potentials they actually have.
Okay, so let's move to the solutions to this. As an expert and someone who is deeply rooted in it, what do you think are those steps that maybe the federal government, people, the community, both rural and urban areas, should start doing, or how should they implement these policies that have been in existence in order to curb the gender inequality?
Okay, first of all, I would say that it has to do with our mindset first and foremost, because the cultural and societal norms are inculcated in the mind. So if we want to change the mindset of people, you know that the older ones will tell you, please, we're not ready to change this mindset. I had a conversation with someone, I think days back, and he said that I don't know what women you people are really fighting for. I don't know what you people are fighting for. So you want to tell me that I will have to, go to the kitchen and carry my water by myself and come and wash my hand and sit down and eat my food. And then when I'm done, just because you want to be equal with me in the home. And I was like, this is the reason why we need to start changing your mindsets, because you have the mindset of those that were in the pre-colonial age. You want a situation where both of you are in the house, you are the head of the family, the woman is the neck. If the neck is not there, will you be able to survive? But you want a situation where she respects you and then you are authoritative, and then it's it's a two-way thing. People are, as in, we're not just women, we are human beings. I don't know if you understand me. So from the mindset, beginning from the mindset, it has to change. And how would the mindset change? Through advocacy, through sensitization, and not just sensitization in, in our legislature or in the with stakeholders and policymakers. We go way back to grassroots communities, because these are the group of people who still have this cultural mentality that, oh, I just need a woman to be here to do all the house chores and all of these things. But if you constantly sing in their ears, there's a lot of advocacies going on, but if you constantly sing intentional steps to change the mindset and the narrative from the grassroots communities, it will go a very long way. And then secondly, the implementation of these policies. They're not ready to implement the policies because they feel threatened at some point. They feel threatened by, you hear people say that, if a woman comes to that seat now, are you people sure that she will not carry her family kidney and come and put inside her? My dear, it has to happen. If you want the change you're looking for, men have been on that table for far too long. What change have you seen from the political space? What change, what policies have they implemented? How can you even have a man being the commissioner for women affairs in a state in Nigeria, when a woman, how would he even tell you that, okay, this is what the women are facing when he is not even a woman? So we need to start taking deliberate steps. From advocacy, we have to do more of sensitization, have to do more of stakeholders engagement, policymakers, to change the narrative, because a lot is really going on. And I mean, as a human being, first.
For our news item, sorry, Amadine, I really need to ask this question. A lot of women are facing some challenges based on unemployment, and the one that actually caught my attention that women are going through is the aspect of rape. There's a situation whereby men rape women and they go scot-free because of the gender inequality. Nobody is there to fight for them, and these men don't get punished. What's your take on that?
Implement the VAP Act. The VAP Act, Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act. from that act, you hold everyone accountable for all of their mischievous conduct. Some perpetrators of these acts, because they see that when the other person did it, he went scot free. There's no court case. There's nothing to If they start seeing conscious actions taken against those perpetrators who have done it, their mindsets will also change. I told you it comes back to the mindset, because you have the mind to do it. You have the mind to commit some of these atrocities. Sometimes, let me tell you, it might even be mental, right? It might be that it's unconscious. You don't know what you're doing. But if you are punished for that act, right? You are punished very well. I'm not talking about you. They'll just call you out in the street and then just talk to you and don't do this again. If they tell you, young man, you will go to prison. This other case that came up like this, see what happened, see what happened. You will go to prison. It is going to, if he is human enough, it's going to instigate, thoughts of, oh, let me repel, let me stay away from some of these cases. And then it is time for men to hold each other accountable. Why I say this is because I think there was a recent information online where we had, a man who mobilized more men to rape his wife. I don't know if you have an idea of that story.
France, I believe.
And not one man came up to say, "Oh, I came with the police. I'm not in for this. Let us, hold each other accountable and don't do this. This is a bad act." Not one man. So everybody was supporting. Everybody that came, you're just going in. You have, the rights. Sleep with my wife. Sleep with my wife. Rape countless men. That was really inhumane. And believe you me, the moment men start standing up for them, the he for she is the ones who know that women are actually going through a lot, stand up and say enough is enough. That is when the other men, they can talk to the other men over beer, over, football matches, have deliberate conversations that will change the mindset of those that have been doing this years and years more. Don't say that because it's not happening to me, it is not my business. It's your business. It is around your area. It is your community. When you're talking about children growing, it takes a community, it takes a whole neighborhood to, promote a child's growth. So there's a lot to be done. Holding men accountable, holding each other accountable is one of the steps to change the
Indeed,
narrative.
I take that, with all seriousness, because really, some things that men can fix within themselves that they don't need to, especially as regards the opposite of what we see, where something happens and some man or someone is shouting, "Where are the feminists? What are they doing? Where are they?" Sometimes why not step in yourself? You can't wait for them, and also the ease or the quickness with which some men jump in with. Not all of us, so just keep that energy.
We can see that you are innocent.
I can't doubt myself that, but I do believe I'm not guilty. But that being said, let's talk about the hindrances or challenges to solutions. This is a funny way to think about it, because solutions are meant to solve problems, but then the solutions tend to develop problems, or people tend to give a pushback. When you were talking about solutions and allowing or getting women to participate in politics, I remembered something I heard from the novelist Chimamanda Adichie the other day, where she said that affirmative action is what has been happening that led to gender inequality. That is to say, when people say, "Why are you allowing women enter these spaces just because, allegedly, because they are women?" She says, "What happened in the past that you said only men are allowed here because they are men? It's the same thing that happened. So for the solution to happen, the opposite has to happen." So how do you think we respond more to these pushbacks? I want to go specifically to the law that attempted to create specific seats for women in the National Assembly in Nigeria. And we've seen similar or something closer in some other countries. Ghana just passed a bill on affirmative action and all of that. Do you think some of these solutions are regressive? Do you think when they create those spaces for women, they say, "You must stay inside here, you must never,
Go out
leave
of
this
them."
space"? Or is it that women, first of all, need that in the first place, at least that one step in before they can, how do we look at these things, these solutions, and people trying to say these solutions, they are not solutions, they're actually more problems?
Okay, I do not think that the solutions are more problems. Why? Because if you're trying to change something, you have to take your first step, right? So if you are creating an opportunity for a woman to be, because you will not have, you won't have a table with 20 men and then you see that there are 10 women and 10 men. It's not happening. It will happen, but right now it's not visible. It's not something that is going on. So if there's an opportunity for, even if it's three women, 3 women is too low. I think 3 women is too low. 6 women per se on that table. You see that the decisions that they are going to, take on that table. Okay, now, pardon me for saying this, but even if there's one woman on that table and the woman is not, sidelined or, curved into the perception of the other men on the table who says, oh, we're not going to approve that affirmative action. We're not going to approve that 5 gender bills that have been, put out for women. And she is capable enough to stand up and say, I am against this, right? I think it's a win-win for women. So I don't think that the solutions are further problems. If a woman is not on that table, that deal is not going to be signed for women's favor. It's going to be signed based on the the dominated voices on that table. And even in a situation where it's just one woman who might not really have a strong say on that table, you will find everybody making the decision and saying, how many, if you're in support of this, say aye. If you're in support of this, say nay. And then you hear the ayes. Then you tell them the ayes have it. Did you consider if this is in favor of those you are implementing this for? You didn't consider that. You didn't check it out. You don't even know the places where the ants are stinging. You just want to do it because majority is having it. No, more women on that table would push for the narrative to change on decision-making processes when it concerns gender equality. And when I say gender equality, I'll just have to, reiterate and make this very, very clear that it doesn't have to do with just women. On that table, you can have a man who is a person with disability to join up in the decision-making process in favor of his own marginalized community because he's a spokesperson for, his community. You can also have someone standing in for the special needs kids. It doesn't really necessarily have to center around women per se, but just that for far so long, women have been underrepresented. So that's why we bring it out and we are coming up in full force and saying, oh, it cannot remain the same. The narrative must change. So that's my perception about
I
the
think that's one
question.
thing I must always commend about the push for gender equality and women's rights, which is that somehow women don't forget others who are marginalized.
Absolutely.
Somehow they try to take everyone along, and I think it's a lesson for all of us to learn.
Yeah.
I know we already asked for solutions, but just to round up now, your personal recommendations on a global perspective now, because like we've seen in the reports and the news items we've read, apparently it's not just a developing nation problem. Even fully developed nations still have one form of discrimination or inequality that affects women negatively. So, what's your all round global take and push or recommendation for how these things could change?
More
And
women.
and how how the progress, the rate of progress could be quickened. When we're hearing 300 years, 137 years, how do we cut these things short?
More women on the table. It always has to do with more women. The lesser women, the lesser voices. So we have to globally improve and amplify women's voices and give space for them. I heard her in one of the reports where she said that the UNGA participation was just having like 12% of women in that in that parliament. But if we don't consciously make them aware that more women have to be involved, the narratives will not change because nobody else knows where it is pinching. I would keep saying it. Nobody else knows what is affecting us. Nobody else knows or understands uh, from the point of view we are coming from. We come in with full force because this is our point of view. This is what we are facing. These are the challenges that we want to break free from. So more women's rights advocates, more women's rights activists, more representation of women in the political space, and the narrative will change globally back in our country, wherever you want the narrative to change. If there are more voices, amplified voices with that have been built with capacity to change those narratives, a lot is going to happen.
Thank
Whether
you so much.
globally or
Thank you so much.
Thank you
for
so
being
much.
on the program.
What a
We've
brilliant
been
one.
speaking there with Grace Hude, the communications lead at Gender Strategy Advancement International. She's also a women's rights advocate. And like you've heard it there, we need to include more women, invest in women, include and not exclude them, so we can get a better society overall. That's how we end this segment of the program. We'll go on a break. When we return, we'll be hearing from our verified voices what they have to say on the issues. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Every day, amazing stories of hope and tenacity unfold across the globe. On Hude Hour, we dive into these inspiring tales and discuss the vital work being done in the humanitarian and development space. Humanity has never faced a shortage of challenges, yet we rise stronger through teamwork and determination. Though these remedies are often underreported, on Hude Hour, we advocate sustainable solutions. We bring you the latest and most impactful news on how lives are being changed. We engage with young change makers and experts who provide valuable insights into relief efforts and the challenges faced by local communities through a global perspective. Join us every Wednesday by 8 a.m. on Hude Network's YouTube channel as we embark on this journey of positive change. Welcome back. Reversing discussion there with Grace Hude, the communications lead at Gender Strategy Advancement International. We were speaking, of course, and are still speaking on the issue of gender equality. And let's move now into our verified voices segment. Let's see what the voices are saying. Moving straight to the first voice of the day, we have from Sima Bahus, the UN Women Chief. She says 137 years. That's how long it will take to end extreme poverty among women if we don't act now. The 2024 Gender Snapshot report from UN Women and UNDISA shows us the urgency. We must accelerate our efforts to activate gender equality and secure a better future for all. The pictorial representation there, it will take 127 years to end extreme poverty. We already mentioned this earlier. And I think the only thing we need to add now is the fact that it says, if we don't take action now, again, we can always take some level of hope and the required action that we need to forestall, prevent, or shorten this timeline so that we get to where we need to be, which is gender equality sometime as soon as possible. So we just need to take action.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the emphasis is basically on the act now, because if we don't act now, we'll have 137 years and counting.
Indeed, yeah.
And that's how it'll keep moving forward. All right, we have our next verified voice. And this is a question from the United Nations Women. Why are so few women in political leaderships? And only 27 countries are led by a woman. And of course, we have 107 countries have never had a woman head of state. Okay, on hashtag Democracy Day, learn what can be done to close the gap. And of course, we have pictorial representations of what we are talking about. The big question is, why are few women in the political leadership? This is a question for that is worth asking, a rhetorical question, but of course that needs actions to be answered.
Indeed.
And unfortunately, just 27 women that are leaders or head of states in countries.
as we speak.
And it's unfortunate that we have a higher number of women that are not found in the political space.
Yeah, indeed. Like you said, it's a question that requires introspection and deep thought. We need to ask ourselves, why is it like this? And I guess the natural progression for that is to ask, what next? What do we do to remedy this when we all agree that there is an issue at hand? So let's take a look at our next verified voice. Also from the UN Women, this is highlighting a particular issue as regards gender equality or discrimination. It says, at the current rate, child marriage will not be eradicated until 2092. We must end child marriage now. It's a violation of human rights. Learn more in the new 2024 Gender Snapshot report from UN Women and UN DAISA. Child marriage will continue until 2092. You can see the pictorial representation there. It's a very sad one, a poignant image. When you take a look at that, the little girl there, presumably with a veil, which is meant for someone much older than her. And we just have to say things the way they are. People who engage in this, people who support it, you are completely on the wrong side of history.
Of
and you need
course.
to change. Children should be concerned about playing and having fun and reading and just a time where there's no weight on your shoulders. Even older persons, people way past the 18 years old or legal age, have difficulty handling marriage. Talk less of a child who shouldn't even be having any responsibilities. So
Yeah.
we do need to work harder so that 2092 is not when this ends. It ends much faster than that.
Yeah, speaking about timing, there's a saying, there is time for everything.
Indeed.
And you don't expect a child who is meant to be focused on building a career, going to school, trying to make a name, trying to define his or her purpose, rather, and you are forcing the person into early marriage. What do you expect the child to go and do there? It's a very, very sad one. All right, let's move down to the next verified voice. This is from UN Energy, and it says the new 2024 Gender Snapshot report by UN Women and UN DESA shows 1.5 million women and girls died in 2019 due to household air pollution, improving energy access through hashtag SDG 7 is not a sustainability. It is a gender equality issue. Amadine, a lot of women and girls are dying because of air pollution, the energy access, and all that. And they are saying this is not like something that is coincidental.
Yeah.
It is a gender equality issue.
Indeed.
What's your take on that?
Yeah, it just shows you that gender equality, even though there's a specific SDG to do that or to cater for that, it cuts across a bunch of them really, because at the end of the day, we're talking about half the world population and the
1.5.
need to give them human rights, which also involves energy access. Wish we could go on more on this, but that's where we will be drawing a close to the program and where we'll be ending it for today. Don't forget that this has been Hude Hour, the flagship program of the Hude Network, where we bring to you discussions and issues in the humanitarian and development space. Do join us once again. I will bring you more topics of interest and input on a global scale. I am Amadine Obel.
And I am Joan Eze. Thank you for joining us. Bye for now.